Innotivity live. Again, not the first time, not the last time, and very much live. Now, I kind of have figured out that although we're talking about speaking up, saying what you need to say in life, very few people probably see the beginning of this broadcast live because usually it gets triggered and then people will get, oh, I forgot about that. And then they'll come in and watch it like about 2 minutes in or whatever. So the only people that really watch the very beginning of this are people watching on recording. So you are probably watching this on recording right now if you are watching this part of the broadcast. Um, and we appreciate the people that watch on recording because you get to see the part of the broadcast that most people probably do not. So anyway, we're here again in TV Live. It is a beautiful day in South Africa where I'm sitting, as you can see out the window behind me. Meanwhile, we have a guest who I think you will be very pleased to hear from. Her name is Beth Farris. She is in Amsterdam, which is not in South Africa, but very, very much connected to South Africa. Not Beth herself, but Amsterdam itself. Many, many people I know from South Africa live in Amsterdam. And Beth actually was introduced to me by somebody that is from South Africa who lives in Amsterdam. His name is David Chislett. He's not here with us today. But that over there next to me, that is Beth Farris. That's her name right there, Beth Farris. She's a business clarity mentor. So I'd like to start, Beth, by you explaining to us briefly what is a business clarity mentor and what does it have to do with learning to speak up?
Yes. So, as a business clarity mentor, there are two types of people that I help. I love to help people who are beginners in business, help them get started and get their first clients. And the other type of person I help is more experienced business owners, and I help them refine their message and their business model so that they can confidently talk about what they do and evolve to the next level. And the people that I help, they're often struggling with lack of confidence and lack of clients. And my point of view, and this is related to speaking up, right? My point of view is that confidence in clients come more easily and naturally when you are clear on yourself, first of all, on your vision, your values, your strengths, your story, and when you're clear on the who, what, and why of your business, and when you have a clear and strong message and business model. And when people don't have those clear foundations, they often get stuck and the tactics don't work. And so this is something that I started to see as I became a business owner myself time and again. And I found myself wanting to solve this clarity problem so that, hey, if you want to, have more confidence, more clients, if you want your marketing to work, what you really need to do is take a couple steps back and get this clarity on your foundation. But I wasn't always confident myself about this as a core message. And even calling myself a business clarity mentor was something I had a hard time speaking up about at first. So I kind of love this question, Michael, that you ask people, what are you not saying? Because there's a lot that can be revealed underneath that. And the reason why I felt sort of insecure at first about calling myself a business clarity mentor is because, as you may know, the conventional thinking and line of thinking and wisdom in the online business world is that really clarity doesn't matter so much. You just need to just start and just take action. And I understand, by the way, why people do say that, because it's true that we can get stuck in fear and overthinking and overwhelm and perfectionism. I've experienced all those things. But action just for action's sake doesn't get you very far. And this is my point of view. And random action, right, versus strategic intentional action. Now we're talking, right? Now this is I think is what will simplify your path to success.
Well, it's theoretically obvious, right?
Yeah.
Theoretically,
Yeah.
clarity makes a lot of sense. we want things to be clear. If you don't have a clear message, people won't listen to you very long because we don't have time. Who has time to listen to a bunch of gibberish, especially when you have to do that at home already, right? You have to listen to that from your family and your friends, from yourself. So obviously, being clear is something that everybody needs to do if they're gonna have an impact, right?
Yeah.
That would
Hmm.
be, I guess, the summary of what you just basically said, right? That to really, oh, look at that, watch this. Whoa. Okay, so to really make a difference in society or in a client base or really anywhere, you have to be clear, right?
Yeah.
And now I
Hmm.
assume
Clear
that
and
clarity doesn't
concise.
begin with what you're actually saying, but in your mind, right?
Yeah, people have to get they really at a base level, I think people have to first really just get what you do. They have to get it. If you find yourself talking about your idea to someone at a networking event or in whatever situation, and they're kind of giving you a bit of a confused look, or they're saying something like, "Oh, interesting," that could be a red flag that right there, it starts out with that base level of clarity, being able to clearly just describe who you help and what you do. Then from there, we can layer on additional messages, right, in terms of your point of view message and your approach to solving the problem for the people that you help. But yeah, so really, I think speaking up, when you just talk about speaking up, I think that that can point to so many different things. I mean, that can be speaking up to protest, or speaking up. I spent 18 years in the corporate world, and sometimes it can be hard to just speak up in meetings if you work for a company, or maybe you need to speak up for your needs in your personal relationships in life, right? But when we talk about speaking up in terms of what I do for work, it's really, in terms of the way that I guide coaches and service-based solopreneurs, really talking about helping them speak up for their business and speak up for their ideas. And another way of saying that is they're getting clarity on the marketing message and how to talk about their business, and also on their point of view message, and that's their business ideas. Yeah, almost thinking about it like, what would your TED talk be? That's your point of view, that's your core point of view message.
See, here's my problem with that, and I have three different TED Talk contents that I'm working on. One of them is this one, right? So I'm actually stealing ideas from you as we talk about speaking up, and basically, like each guest I have has like one big idea that like someday I'll be able to use as a speech, and I'll certainly reference everybody if they've contributed. But I also have two others. So how do you, Beth, hone down what you want to say and actually make it clear for yourself? I guess there's
Yeah.
going to be two big questions I want us to cover in this conversation. One, what's your big, giving away all your IP free tip on how people can get clear for themselves what it is they really want to say? And the second question later we'll deal with is, how do you say it clearly? But first, let's just start with, how do you know what it is you want to say? How do you figure that out?
Yeah, well, first of all, I just want to say that there is no quick there is no quick fix, and I see this mistake being made a lot, that people, and I get the desire, like right away they want to say, well, let me just come up with that catchy one-liner, that catchy pitch, that elevator pitch, before they have really done the thinking that goes behind that. And so working with me, this is what we do. This is what I do with my clients. And we talk about everything from, in terms of who you, first of all, just really starting with yourself, actually, and kind of thinking, doing some, as a service-based solopreneur, again, I say that phrase a lot. You are selling services as a solo business owner. There's not some big company behind you. So you need to infuse a lot of yourself into your business and brand. And that's a good thing. But this is where it's almost like step one is getting some clarity on yourself. What is it that you really, what is your zone of genius? What are your strengths? What are your passions? who do you really want to help, and what impact do you really want to make? Uh, Looking at your natural personality, skills, strengths, your experience, the past life and business experience that you've had, all of these things put together really start to paint a clear picture of just, what you bring to the table and what you want to do, what your purpose is, what your why is, what motivates you, what's your backstory as well. There's a lot there. And what I have found, interestingly enough, is once we start to dig into, like, tell me about, your life and what led you up to this point of wanting to start your own business, a lot gets revealed there. And interestingly enough, there's usually a story of struggle, there's usually a story of pain. Every one of us has had this. I've had this as well, because in my own backstory, the thing that finally was the catalyst for me to start my own business was a lot of burnout that I experienced and feeling unempowered in the corporate world. And so that's something I've been speaking out about a little bit more lately. And that's not easy to do. But all of this provides great context. So that's where you start from, really. Is this making sense so far? Because I could talk a lot on this. We could have a whole long conversation about this one just in itself. But yeah, that's the starting point.
Well, for sure, and can always come back another day. But would you say that's correct? Tip number one that we put on the screen there: take the time to get clear on your story, not rush
Yes.
into it, not try to do it too quickly. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. 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 I like that.
Is that,
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm wrong, if I got the tip wrong, we can change it. I just want to check. Is that tip correct?
Yeah. I like that. That makes
Yes.
sense. On your story. Yes. On you. On
Okay.
you and your story. Be a little more accurate.
On
Yes.
you and your story. Watch this. See, this is how this works. It's really cool.
Can you edit
StreamYard,
it?
right? On you and your story. Now watch this. It comes right back like this. There it is. Oh,
Magic.
no, there it is.
Oh,
There it is. There it is. This is from last week. From last week, a couple of weeks ago, we had Be Kind to Cows. That was last week with Jessica, but that's not our story. So the tip number one, take the time to get clear on you and your story.
right.
Okay.
Right.
So that was in answer to the question. I believe the question I asked you was, what is the way that you can get clarity before you speak? So you're basically
Yeah.
saying that the main thing is really to take time with it, not just say whatever, but actually think it through.
Yeah, take time.
Yeah.
Take time and space and reflect. And this is similar to creativity and innovation, I think, because clarity, creativity, innovation, it all takes some time and space. And when you give yourself that time to reflect and get different perspectives, perhaps from other people, that's where it starts to get clear. Yeah. So after that, well, really,
Well,
you need. Yeah.
you're taking us in an interesting direction, so I don't want to skip over that.
Okay. Okay.
Because I think there's a lot of connection between clarity and creativity, and
Mm,
a lot of people might feel otherwise, that creativity is somehow something that is spontaneous only and is something that you have no idea where it came from. But actually, there are specific steps that we take to create creative ideas. We're just not aware of them usually. So there is a very much a process to creativity that I think is probably very similar in a lot of ways to the process you take people through to gain clarity. So I just want to put a little pin on that thought you have, because it is
yes.
very
Yeah.
important to clarity and creativity go together like that.
Absolutely. Yes. 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 Well, yeah, and
Okay, so we got tip number one. Oh,
okay.
no, go
Tip
ahead.
number one.
Good. I think we have a
Yes.
delay between us. When I stop talking, then you start a few seconds later, and then when I start, you. So go ahead.
Okay. All right. So let's see. Tip number 2. Okay. Now you're forcing me to chunk this down into tips, so I'm going to think about. So I think that you need to.
Wait, before we get to tip number 2, I want to do a little interlude.
Okay.
We can't give everybody the gold just like this. Right? So a couple of things. First of all, if you want to get a reminder, whether you're watching this recorded or whether you're watching it live, if you want to get a reminder of who's going to be speaking with us on the lives each week and get reminded to tune in, This is where you go to register to get yourself those reminders. We won't be like inundating you with mails. It'll just be once a week to remind you to come and join us for there. So that's really, it couldn't be simpler, right? bit.ly/Innotivity live. So that's where you do that. Secondly, if you want to watch the old ones, Beth did this. I think she watched one from a week ago or two, right, Beth? You
Yes, I
did.
did.
You can do that on YouTube. We have enough viewers on our YouTube channel now that we can call ourselves by a brand name. So it is youtube.com/c/Innotivity TV, or just look up Innotivity TV. Now, before we go to tip number 2, I have a question from one of our live stream participants, we'll call him. He is a regular. He comes often to this. His name is Luciano Santini. He has a PhD, so he's probably smarter than either of us. But his question is this. How do you tell someone who holds a high position and clarify to them that they are not a leader and have no idea, right? Let me show you it actually, right? How do you tell someone who holds a high position and clarify to them that they're not a leader and have no idea on how to engage people without causing bigger problems or ruining the relationship? So this is interesting, Beth, because this is not really like into the wheelhouse of clarity mentoring or coaching, right? But I'm going to just throw this at you, and we can both give our thoughts on this. There's a second comment from him as well, by the way, which is that he has his own way of informing people whether a person in a high position suck at their job. So how do you say clearly to someone that they suck at their job, right, without ruining the relationship? How do you do that? Any thoughts?
Gosh, interesting.
By the way, Luciano loves to speak about these things. So anyway, that's the question. How do you tell someone and clarify them that they are not a leader without ruining the relationship?
This makes me think back to my corporate days when I was managing people. And I think that there's a way that you have to mentor, one of my favorite words. I think that you have to take a mentoring approach so that you don't, cause a lot of drama in the way that you deliver this message. And assuming, well, I don't know the work relationship that we're talking about here, but when I would be mentoring people, I would say in a gentle and kind way, hey, I noticed that you're doing this specific thing, but what if you tried this way? What do you think about that? And I'm not sure, or you could also say, I'm not sure that I noticed that you're doing XYZ, and that's not really maybe the most effective way that you could be doing that. What do you think about trying this way? It's hard to know about the specifics of this situation, right? But how does that feel?
Well, let's hear from our questioner. Does that help? Is that input useful, Luciano? I'm noticing also, by the way, Beth, we are getting some messages from a couple people that they're not finding the broadcast. It seems to be LinkedIn's special case that people go to the place where the event is, and then they can't find the live stream, even though it seems like they should be able to, and there are other people on it, like Luciano. So I've sent a couple of messages. We might have some other people joining. It is always interesting that these things, which are quite high-level products, people like LinkedIn can figure out how to do properly. But anyway, Luciano, we'll hear from you if that comment that Beth made is helpful. My question to you, Luciano, would be this: is it necessary to do both of those two things? Are you intending to say what the truth is in a clear way, which is not insulting or, making a moral judgment, not doing any of those things that should offend somebody? Is it your responsibility whether that person is going to react that way? Can you control their reaction? Probably not, right? So, I mean, Beth, I don't have the corporate background that you do, but the way I would, I guess, coach somebody in that situation is be absolutely straight, not about how you feel, not about like you're angry or you think they suck. I think at some point, Luciano, how did you phrase it? You said they suck at their job. Well, that's a judgment, right? But if there is a violation of policy, if there is a violation of principle, if there is a way of behaving that is unproductive, you know, can you address it in a way that is directly dealing with that? I can tell you, hey, you suck at your job. That's really just an opinion, right? When I was a kid, I remember my father caused a huge problem. My grandfather had a heart attack and stuff because of the way that my father spoke to him about something. And it wasn't that my father was concerned about that thing. It was the way he spoke to him was very personal, unpleasant, insulting. And I think that's the barrier that we're always dealing with when we say, like, speak up and say the things you need to say. But are you saying the things you need to say because you actually suck at your job, and you don't speak properly, and you don't have to insult somebody to tell them that they are in fact doing something wrong, or doing something that's not workable, or doing something that's, So I guess I'm just asking that question. Like, is it always necessary to take responsibility for the fact that you are speaking the truth, and then you don't know what's going to happen, right? You don't know what the result of that is. So, I don't know if that's a perspective that's helpful. That's where I'd come from. Is don't load it with your own baggage. Just say what the reality is.
Can I
We also have a comment from Darwin.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, please. That's what we're here for. We still got 8 minutes to go. So
okay. I want to add
Darwin has
more.
another question. We'll come back to Darwin's question in a second. Let's go ahead, Beth, and give us your follow-up to my yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, just two more quick tips. One is try not to communicate with this person when you're in that moment of anger, because I know how that can be. Like, let yourself cool off first and then approach the person. And the other tip is approach them in a live situation. Do not email this. Do it in a live phone call or a live Zoom call, and that's the best way to communicate on something like this.
Pick up the phone.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's one of the big problems with our whole day and age, is people are scared to actually have real conversations, right? Because people want to send a text or an email, and then they go, I sent them the email. Yeah. So that was a beautiful tip, Beth. I think that was really important, that when you're going to deal with a difficult conversation, have the conversation. Don't try to hide from it by sending a mail. And second tip that you've given that I think is great is don't, it's kind of what I was saying, right? Don't be in the moment of emotion. Don't be a biased speaker. And so take yourself out of that moment if it's going to throw you around. Okay, before we get to tip number 2 of the day, which was the big question of, right, how do you actually say the things? You've kind of given us a little bit of that. We did have another comment, question from Darwin. Darwin wanted to know, business clarity is needed only in our communication or in other aspects of our day-to-day work? I think I know the answer to this one, Beth, but
well, I think it can help. Probably no surprise that I would say this. I think that it can help in every aspect of what you're doing, because, when you're, obviously we know it's important for communication so that you can clearly communicate what you do in a clear and compelling way, but also in your day-to-day work. And this is what I also help clients with, because when you have a clear plan, a clear strategy and a clear plan, you know what you should be spending your time on day to day. You know the different goals that you've set and the strategies and the tactics that will help you achieve those goals. So there as well, it can help. Yeah.
Great. And it's a very good question, Darwin, to ask, because, and then there's also, is communication not every facet of life, right? Um,
Yeah.
as we're going through our day, isn't everything we're doing communication, even if it's just with ourselves? And so we need clarity in that as well. But obviously, the clear mind, right? And this is why I think you're right. We could talk for hours about the connection with creativity and innovation, especially because the clear mind is such a hard thing for most people to achieve. Most people are dealing all the time with all kinds of conversations that are not necessarily connected to the outside world, but to things
Mm-hmm.
that happened in the past, or things that think about the future, or things that they have opinions about that aren't necessarily connected to the real world or what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
so here's tip number two. I'm going to ask you for. We got 5 minutes left. You can take all 5 minutes up with this, or do it in 30 seconds. Whatever suits you.
Yeah.
The question I want to ask number two is how do we? What's a big tip you can give someone once you're clear about what you want to say?
Mm-hmm.
Again, Luciana kind of led us into touching on this a bit, but once you're clear what you want to say, what's a really broad way to give people advice on the best way to figure out how to say it?
Yeah. Okay. So what's coming to me right now is a really effective way for the next tip to give people something actionable and tangible and useful. I think that content is such a powerful, powerful way to get clear in your message and deliver your message. If you think about content these days, right, there's articles, video, podcasts, carousel posts, PDF posts, infographics, animations. There's so many ways that you can communicate. And I would take advantage of putting your ideas into these tangible pieces of content as a way to express yourself and start getting comfortable and getting clear on what it is that you want to say. And that's a natural process to get clear on your ideas. Yeah, I think through the process, and this is where creativity comes into play, actually, because it is such a creative, we're literally creating content. So there's that intersection there between creativity and clarity.
So would this be correct then? Take
Take advantage.
advantage of the variety of content you can share.
Yeah,
Would
yeah,
that
and
be
I
the
would say,
correct tip number two?
I'm a copy editor, so I feel like I want to copy edit it. But yes, I think I like this. Take advantage of the variety of content. Yeah, this is good. Yeah. Hmm.
We can copy edit it. I can do that right here in front of
You can,
everybody.
you
So
can
just if you
say
want to copy edit, tell me. But
you could say infuse your ideas into a variety of content.
infuse. I'm typing as we spoke. Okay. So it literally is. I don't have an assistant. This is all done without a net. So there we go. Tip number two: infuse your ideas into a variety of content.
Yeah.
Ladies and
Hmm.
gentlemen of the audience, this is tip number two. So tip number one for the day: take the time to get clear on you and your story. Don't rush it. Tip number two: infuse your ideas into a variety of content. So
Yeah.
that is the two big tips for the day. Remember, there are a couple of smaller tips, which is when you're actually communicating something controversial, take your time to do it directly. Don't do it by proxy. Don't send a mail or a message. It can be misconstrued. But also, you want to be in the interaction with the person, right? It's not just like send them your thing and that's it. Um, we have one last question from Darwin. How to take advantage of the LinkedIn platform with business clarity? That is way too big a question for the last 30 seconds, Darwin. So come back next week and ask that at the beginning of the broadcast.
I
Or
do have
I'll
a
try to
quick
set up
answer.
a.
I do have a quick
Okay,
answer.
all right, go for it. Yeah, better be quick though.
Well, where your message shows up most prominently and most importantly is in two places on LinkedIn: your headline and your about section. So your message takes on many different forms. On LinkedIn, the two most important places are your headline and your about section. So people should be able to quickly and easily understand what you do and what you stand for. what you're all about.
Thank you, Beth. I'm absolutely appalled that we're out of time. I would love to talk more. That was a great last little tip. So there you got, you guys, you got your 2 tips for the day, plus a couple of sub tips. Beth is full of information. Please contact Beth on LinkedIn. It's pretty easy to find her. You just look up her name, which is, again, remember, everybody, Beth Farris, Business Clarity Mentor. Look her up on LinkedIn. Obviously, she's tagged in the post and everything else. Thank you very much, Beth. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Beth, I look forward to talking to you more in a future conversation.
Yes.
Anything else you'd like to say before we go? I didn't get to ask you the big question that I usually ask. We got so distracted.
I know. We'll have to have
So
another
that'll
one of
happen
these.
in the future. I usually ask people to say something there before I'll say it.
No, the one thing I want to leave you with is that I actually have a free Clarify Your Message workbook on my website for anyone that wants to download it. And that has a lot of questions in there that will get you thinking and help you clarify your message.
Okay. What is the website?
Beth-Farris.com. And then you go there and you go to free resources, and that's where it is. Yeah.
Like this, the-Farris.com. We are over time. If we were on a real TV show, we'd be in trouble. Is that it?
It's Beth-Farris.com. But anyway, okay. It's Beth-Farris.com.
Okay. Beth-Farris. Okay. That makes much more sense. But, you know, the real Donald Trump, the Farris, Beth-Farris.com.
There you go. Yes.
Okay. That's a hyphen, not a dash. That's clear communication. BethFarris.com. Please have a look at that. And more importantly than anything, give her a big thank you. Send her a message. Let her know that you enjoyed what she had to say. Thank you, Beth. This is Innotivity Live. This is where you can get reminders. This is the name of the show. This is the name of the guest. And this is me, Michael Lee. Thank you very much to you all. That is the end of our broadcast this week. We'll see you again next week.